Got it. Okay, yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the 12 Steps to Freedom Workshop, hosted by the original Zoo Crew, November 20th, 2022. So excited. We get started in about 2 minutes. We'll wait 2 minutes and then we'll get started.
Awesome to see everyone here.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. We show up to grow up.
How you doing today, cousin?
I'm great, man. Great. I'm excited about this workshop, you know, to learn a little bit more from you guys and about you guys. Get it
In a
going.
few months, we'll be getting over 20 people in here.
People will be coming as we get started. Okay, now everybody, just open the link and you can read along. There is no secret sauce. Everything that I read, you can read right along with me. Thank you, John, for putting the script together for us with the information and the instructions. Okay, here we go. Good morning, family. My name is Jonathan, and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the 12 Steps to Freedom Workshop. We'll be taking the 12 steps in about 4 hours. This was written and put together by John A., West Palm Beach, Florida, with outline from the Back to Basic books by Wally P. If you can't explain it, you simply don't understand it well enough. Quote by Albert Einstein. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 12 Steps to Freedom Workshop. We'll be going through the 12 steps in just 4 hours. Let's start this with a moment of silence to reflect on what we're about to do here today, followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, the courage to change the things that can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You could be anywhere right now, but you have chosen instead to be with us. We're happy to have you here, making this investment in your sobriety. You're making a huge deposit in your IRA, your individual recovery account, by being here and participating. Please keep making these deposits, no matter how small, because one day you may have a situation that will to make a huge withdrawal, and you do not want your IRA to be depleted. We'll be taking a 10-minute break at about 1 p.m. Eastern Time so that we can try and get this done by 3 o'clock. We'll be mostly using the big book in the 12 and 12 to go through the 12 steps. And
Hey,
Looks like you got.
hey, cousin. Yeah, we can't hear you, cousin.
Would you like me to read?
Yeah.
Um, and we will be sharing our experience, strength, and hope with you on the 12 steps to help us all get better, a better understanding of the steps and how they apply them in our life. Page 15 of the 12 and 12, AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. Some of you might be thinking that it's impossible to go through the 12 steps in just 4 hours. It's not impossible. In fact, that's how they did it in the early days of AA. Big Book, page 263. It was Dr. Bob's afternoon off. He had me to the office, and we spent 3 or 4 hours formally going through the 6-step program as it was at the time. The 6 steps were 1. Complete deflation. 2. Dependence and guidance from a higher power. 3. Moral inventory. 4. Confession. 5. Restitution. 6. Continued work with other alcoholics. Dr. Bob led me through all of these steps. At the moral inventory, he brought up several of my bad personality traits or character defects, such as selfishness, conceit, jealousy, carelessness, intolerance, ill temper, sarcasm, and resentments. We went over these at great length, and then he finally asked me if I wanted these defects of character removed. When I said yes, we both knelt at his desk and prayed, each of us asking to have these defects taken away. There were only 6 steps at the time. Bill expanded them into 12 steps when he wrote the big book. But those 6 steps still encompassed all of the principles of the current steps. A prospect couldn't attend an AA meeting until he had taken the steps. He didn't even know where the meetings were held at that time until someone sponsored him into the AA meeting. I'm not going to say that AA was more effective than us as opposed to now, but I will say that people are dying needlessly because they are procrastinating in taking the 12 steps. Even if they are not dying, they are suffering longer than they need to. How soon do you want to be happy, joyous, and free? If your house was on fire, would you have a sense of urgency to get that fire out? If you had a life-threatening disease, you would have a sense of urgency in getting on the path to recovery. Freedom from the obsession of alcohol comes in taking the 12 steps. Your life is in danger. Have a sense of urgency in having the 12 steps become a way of life, sooner than later. That feeling of being happy, joyous, and free comes from taking the 12 steps. The steps help us work on underlying issues behind alcoholism. If alcohol was the problem, most of us would be cured by now. Alcohol was but a symptom. Do you want to know how to get in a position of neutrality and get a great defense against that first sucker drink? It is through the 12 steps of AA. Quitting drinking is easy as pie. Anyone can quit drinking. Everyone here quit drinking at some point in time prior to coming into AA. The problem is staying stopped. That's where AA and the 12 steps come into play. If alcohol was the problem, treatment centers would have a 99.9% success rate. You could go to jail for a weekend and stop drinking. Again, everyone in here has stopped drinking even before coming into AA, but couldn't stay stopped. Even if it was for 1 hour, half a day, or perhaps a week, you had stopped but didn't know how to stay stopped. In AA, we are able to stay stopped one day at a time by taking the 12 steps and practicing the principles behind the steps. We become someone who no longer needs to drink. The key to staying stopped is not to pick up the first drink. We are all one drink away from a drunk. The goal for today is to get you 12 plus steps away from that first sucker drink. If you stay for the whole workshop, you'll have taken all the steps except 4, 5, 8, and 9. You will get a cursory knowledge of those steps, but you will need to get someone to help you with those steps. You can be on step 9 within a few days. I'd like everyone to stand up with their big book in their hand. Please stand. Now drop or put the big book on the
No,
floor.
slow down, Adam. Make sure everyone is standing. Everyone, please stand.
I can't stand because I broke a bone in my foot, so I'm staying put.
Yep.
All right, you guys. I'd like everyone to stand with their big book in their hand. Please stand. Now drop or put the big book on the floor. Please
Just drop
remain
it. Just drop
standing.
it. No, no, wait and make sure they're doing it, Adam. Now drop it.
You
Okay.
guys got your book on the floor?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Uh, please remain standing till we finish reading the following paragraph. There is a solution. Big book, page 25. There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others, and we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it. When, therefore, we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. Please pick up your big book. Go ahead, you guys, which contains the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet, and sit down. Before going any further, I have a few questions. I'd like each person here to answer. Are you willing to go to any lengths to get sober and stay sober?
Right?
Yes.
Let's
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you want to be happy, joyous, and free?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
All
Yes.
right.
all right.
If you
Great
have
job, Adam.
decided you want,
Great job, Adam.
okay. Is cousin with us?
Jonathan is back. Cousin is back. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, if you have decided that you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to do it, then you are ready to take certain steps. Step one, we admitted we're powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. In the big book, page 24, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. Split the step into two parts. Look at step one. One, admitting that we are powerless over alcohol. Two, that our lives have become unmanageable. Focus on the first part until you're comfortable saying that you are powerless over alcohol, and believe it when you say it. Then take the time to look at your life experience from an aerial view so you can see the big picture of how unmanageable your life was. We'll pause for a moment. Imagine you are a bird looking down on your life and seeing what it was before coming into alcohol tonight. See, there is absolutely no action taken in step one, two, or three. There is nothing to write until you get to step four. You may choose to do some writing if you want to, or if your sponsor suggests that you do. There are even worksheets and workshops on the internet for steps one, two, and three. We learned we had to fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholics. This uh, Big Book, page 30. We perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps toward liberation and strength. Our mission of personal powerlessness fully turn out to be firm bedrock upon which happy, purposeful lives may be built. 12 and 12, page 21. The doctor's opinion will show you how you were powerless with alcohol and also why you drink. If you're an alcoholic, men and women essentially drink because the effect produced by alcohol, the sensation is so elusive. While they admit that it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, the alcoholic life seems the only normal. They are restless, irritable, and discontent. Unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others take with impunity after they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do. And the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful and with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over. And unless the person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope for his recovery. See, you don't crave alcohol until you have had the first drink. Prior to that, it is an obsession of the mind. I must repeat that. You don't crave alcohol until you have had the first drink. Prior to that, it is an obsession of the mind. What are some of the myths about this step? Powerlessness. Powerlessness means you're weak. Admitting powerlessness is a crucial step on the pathway to independence and strength. It requires honesty, courage, courage to accept that alcohol and or drugs have taken over your life. You have to hit rock bottom before you are able to find support. It doesn't require a major life event to open your eyes to alcoholism or a developing alcoholic or the developing of alcohol. Sometimes all it requires is the realization alcohol is causing more pain than the pain you aim to escape. Even if you're a high ranking member of the Not Yet Club and have not been arrested, gotten a DWI, lost a job, lost your family, etc., your life could still be unmanageable. You don't have to ride to the bottom in the elevator. You can get off at any floor. You hit bottom and you stop digging. Got reservations about being an alcoholic? Think about the various ways your life was unmanageable. Were you experiencing health problems like high blood pressure, insomnia, or ulcers? Are you having feelings of guilt, despair, hopelessness, depression, anxiety? Do you hate yourself or have thoughts of suicide? Are you having poor performance at work or school, leading to loss of employment or poor grades? Have you lost your parental rights? Are you getting a divorce? Are you having serious relational issues with friends and family? Are you experiencing legal issues, financial problems, facing incarceration? Have you compared your alcoholism with other people's alcoholism? What does unmanageability mean to you? What troubles have been caused because of my alcoholism? Have I used alcohol and or drugs to change and suppress feelings? Am I in denial? What reservations am I still holding on to? Do I accept that I will never regain control over drinking, even after a long period of time without use? What could my life be like if I surrendered completely? Am I willing to follow directions, go to meetings, give recovery my best effort? Have I made peace with the fact that I am an alcoholic and I'll have to do things to stay sober? Is AA for you? 12 is AA for you? Is AA for you? 12 questions only you can answer. The link is in the chat as you read along. In a boxing match, the fighter loses when his corner throws in the towel and quits. In AA, we win when we throw in the towel and quit and surrender. See, prior to AA, the 12 steps, excuse me, prior to AA and the 12 steps, we were totally powerless over that first sucker drink. And once we took that first drink, we were powerless to stop until we got that buzz. It doesn't matter how long you drink or how much you drink. We thought alcohol was the solution before we came to AA. Alcohol was only a temporary solution. But through Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps, we can find a permanent solution and a higher power. Before coming to AA and taking the 12 steps, we are totally powerless over that first sucker drink. And once we took that first sucker drink, we were powerless to stop until we got that buzz. For many alcoholics, their alcohol was our higher power. But in Alcoholics Anonymous, we find a permanent solution and a true higher power who can solve our problems and help us to face reality. Many people take steps 1 and 2 prior to joining AA. Why would you go to a meeting and continue going to AA if you didn't think that you were powerless over alcohol and their lives were somewhat unmanageable? You would not continue to go to AA if you did not feel that it could help restore your life, restore you to sanity, and do something for you. Why continue to fight and get overrun by sheer force when you can negotiate a conditional surrender? Unfortunately, when we come to AA, we do not have the luxury of negotiating any type of conditional surrender. Our surrender must be an unconditional surrender without any reservations whatsoever. Nobody surrenders to die. You surrender to live. Again, sad to say that we do not reach that mindset until we are thoroughly defeated. Then and only then do we allow a power greater than ourselves to come in and to help us rebuild and perhaps emerge better than before. Each person's story is unique in their own way. Best not to compare your story to anyone else's. Don't compare, relate, and identify. You don't have to go back out to create a sexier or more exciting story because you think that yours is too boring. Become committed to your sobriety and not just involved. Once the obsession has been relieved, we are no longer powerless over alcohol. I can't give you a time frame, but through taking the steps, you will be placed in a position of neutrality. You will be safe and protected. You will no longer be powerless over people, places, and things, nor powerful over alcohol. Notice that the steps reads, we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. However, you interpret the 12 steps. It's up to you, and perhaps you and your sponsor. But the question here today is, are you ready to concede to your innermost self that you are an alcoholic? Yes or no? Are you ready to concede to your innermost self that you are enough?
All right, unmute yourself
Yes.
and shout it out or put it in the chat.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely.
Yes, I have.
Yes,
Indeed.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I have no reservations.
Okay. And that is the next question. The next question, and think carefully and be honest. Do you have any reservation whatsoever about being an alcoholic?
No.
No.
Yes
No.
or no? Yes or no?
No
Are, are, are,
reservations.
are you sure? How about after 10 years? Maybe after 10 years, you can have one drink.
Hell no. Tried
No.
that.
Oh,
Hell
come
to the
on.
no.
Come on. After 20 years, I mean, I'm sure after 20 years, you can have a drink.
That spells relapse.
That's it. Now you get
That
rid of the
didn't
reservations. Just
That
do
was
it one
the
day at a time.
question. That,
Right.
that's that
Right.
was the
One day at
question.
a time.
Do I think that I will? Do I think that I can do it differently one day? No, I don't. No, I don't. Experience has shown me so far. Well, if you have conceded that you are an alcoholic and have no reservations about being an alcoholic, then you have just taken step one. November the 20th, 2022. Congratulations. Let us move on. Who's going to do step two?
Alicia was on the schedule for steps 1 and 2.
Adam, you want to do step two?
Alicia's
Sure.
here. Alicia's here.
Oh, Alicia's here? Oh, I didn't
Mhm.
see her. Come on in, Alicia. It's your turn. You're up.
Hey, Alicia.
You put the schedule in the pad again, please. Right. Somebody else do step two then.
I'll do it.
Go ahead, Adam. Yes, you read very well. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. I'm Adam, and I'm an alcoholic. Here's step 2. Let's do this. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Some members of AA will immediately bring up God when the subject of step 2 comes up. Step 2 isn't about believing or not believing in a God. We don't have to immediately start talking about God when this step comes up. The newcomer can be spoon-fed the God talk. Steps 2 talks about coming to believe in a power greater than yourself. The power can be anything you choose. 12 and 12, page 26. First, Alcoholics Anonymous does not demand that you believe anything. All of its 12 steps are but suggestions. Second, to get sober and to stay sober, you don't have to swallow all the step 2 right now. Looking back, I find that I took it piecemeal myself. Third, all you really need is a truly open mind. Just resign from the debating society and quit bothering yourself with such deep questions as whether it was the hen or the egg that came first. Again, I say, all you need is the open mind. There is nothing to write in steps 1, 2, or 3. It's up to you if you want to do some writing with with 3 steps, but Big Book doesn't mention writing until we get to step 4. The actions start with step 4. Big Book, page 46. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. Big Book, page 46. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. Big Book, page 47. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. Big Book, page 45. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. We had to find power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Big Book, page 55. Deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other it is there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. Big Book, page 47. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. Most people come into AA on the third step. Please don't waste time overthinking this way of living. You can surrender to alcoholism and die drinking, or you can surrender to your higher power and AA and be happy, joyous, and free. Lack of power was our dilemma, but we can tap into a power greater than ourselves that will remove the obsession to drink and give us a design for living. Do you believe, or are you even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than yourself? That power can be anything at all, yes or no?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Great. If you answered yes to this question, then you have just taken the second step, step 2.
Hey, cousin, how about any questions, on steps 1 and 2? Does anyone think that it was more complicated than this? No, any questions, comments?
I just know that until I really accepted the problem, step 1, that step 2 wasn't even a factor for me because I had spent 5 years and really not being honest in acceptance of my powerlessness. So once that happened, then I could really look at step 2 and have that hope that it offers.
I'd like to comment that step 1 was the hardest one for me for over 20 years. That really was really hard. I don't know why, but it was. Maybe I was hard-headed and didn't want to surrender.
I think a lot of it is the stigma too. There is such a stigma behind being an alcoholic. You're homeless, you're living in the streets, you're eating out of garbage cans. There's a stigma. I mean, it's cooler to be a drug addict and, in society, but yeah, there's still a stigma behind alcoholism.
Yeah, John, that was true for me too. I didn't want to be the stigma.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Like I can relate to
Plus,
that.
I mean, at
And
least
I,
for me, like
not to go on any further, but step one was hard because I watched everyone else not have the problem that I had. You know, I have people in my family, even my own husband, he can have 2 drinks and be done for the day or the evening or not look at it for days. You know, I have that one, I'm going to drink it all. So coming to that realization that, you know, this is about me, not about what everyone else can do. It's taken me years to get to that point. So.
I was
Anybody?
finding actually it was more like if you can get away with it for 30 years, then because you can hide it, right? So then you don't really have any accountability if you don't really care, right? So if you nobody else is keeping you accountable.
Mhm.
Did anyone
Yeah.
anyone get stuck
Yeah,
on
when I,
step 2 with the God, thinking it was all about God?
Well, here's the thing about step 2 for me. I mean, you know, when I was younger, I didn't even have any real introduction to God in my life till I was 17. So I knew what it was to be an atheist, and then I just believed in science, and then then when I was introduced to God, I believed in him right away in my mind, but uh, did I really take action behind it, and did I really believe? And that was always something I didn't understand until later on in life when I had been through so many hard times. I realized I better start acting like how God wants me to, act.
Anybody else? Steps 1 and 2.
yes, when I think about step 1 and 2, you guys just really let me know. And listen, step 1, I lost, and I will never win in alcohol and drugs again. I lost, and you know what? That hurt. That hurt at first. And then step 2, I realized that I lost. That means that it started to sink in. Reality started to sink in. And that hurt too after living in a fantasy for so many years. So I often sum it up in just a few words. Step 1, I lost. Step 2, I realized that I lost.
Yeah. For me, I did steps 1 and 2 6 months before coming into AA. So I was stationed in South Carolina, and spring of '82, whatever, March, April '82, I told some friends, I'm going to sign up for a deployment to go to Japan. I was in the Marines. I'm going to sign up for a deployment to go to Japan. And when I get to Japan, I'm going to quit drinking, quit smoking, and join AA. I'd never been to an AA meeting, didn't know the first thing about it. And for decades, I don't know what, I didn't remember why I said that or where that came from. But only in the last 10 years, I remember that when I lived in New York, there were public service announcements on the radio, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Do you think you have a drinking problem? Alcoholics Anonymous can help. So that's where that came from. And we weren't going to go to Japan until June. So again, this was March or April. We didn't go until June. And then when I got there, a 6-pack was $1.50 and a fifth of rum was $2.10. So that's why my sobriety date is September instead of June. But yeah, so I did steps 1 and 2. As soon as I told my friends, I'm going to sign up for that deployment and I'm going to quit drinking and smoking when I get there. I used to smoke 2-3 packs of cigarettes a day. I quit both at the same time by the grace of God. So yeah, when I came in, still took me about 2 or 3 weeks to admit that I was an alcoholic. But yeah, after that, just went right along. Anybody else? Steps 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
for
Michelle.
me, it was like the whole unmanageability just became so normal to me that I couldn't even admit that I had a problem. Like I felt like I could just control everything. And I don't even know how I used to walk around and just I don't know how I tired and just worn out and ready now. But for a long time, Could not, was stubborn. Stubborn, in denial.
How about you, Laura? Anything on steps 1 and 2?
Yes, my name's Laura and I'm an alcoholic. I knew that I was powerless over alcohol many, many years ago. I've always had a drinking problem. I could never have just a drink. I would have a drink and be thinking about my next drink. And I would drink to get effed up. That was the point of drinking. I didn't see the point in drinking just to drink socially. I would drink anything that was put in front of me as long as it gave me a buzz. So I knew years ago that I was powerless over alcohol. I've had, I got my first DUI in my early 20s. And then less than a year later, I got another DUI that was reduced to reckless driving. Got put in jail for 9 days. Didn't faze me. Continued to drink. So I've always known that I was powerless over alcohol. Thank God I have always known my God. So it was really easy for me to do step 2 and know that he was in control. He has built a hedge of protection around me my entire life. I should have been dead countless times. So steps 1 and 2 and 3 were really, really easy for me. Yeah, I'm just grateful that I'm still alive and I'm in the program now. Thank you.
Go ahead, Janice.
Hi guys, Janice Alcoholic, 127 days. Well, I'll let you know what alcohol did for me. And I know a lot of you haven't had the yets, but I pretty much almost had all of the yets. 6 DUIs.
No, Janice, just comment on steps 1 and 2. No drunk allowed.
Oh, okay. Well, it really helped me to start getting an AA, to realize that I was an alcoholic and had a problem. Okay. Thank you.
How long did it take you to do steps 1 and 2, Janice?
Over the years, 20 years to get it right.
Glad you found us. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, cousin, go ahead. Step 3.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have
Laura will
step
be
3.
step
Yep.
3.
Hi again, Laura, alcoholic. Okay, we're going to go ahead and read step 3. And again, the link is in the chat if you guys want to follow along. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God could and would if he were sought. The ABCs of the AA program sum up steps 1 and 2. Step 1, if you are convinced that you're an alcoholic and that your life was unmanageable without any reservations. And 2, step 2, if you are convinced that a power greater than yourself can help you. There is nothing to write in steps 1, 2, or 3. It's up to you if you want to do some writing with these 3 steps. But the big book doesn't mention writing until we get to step 4. The actions start with step 4. In the big book on page 60, it says, being convinced we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? It also says in the big book on page 60 that the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. In the 12 and 12, which is the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book on page 34, it says practicing step 3 is like the opening of a door, which to all appearances is still closed and locked. All we need is a key and the decision to swing the door open. There is only one key, and it is called willingness. Once unlocked by willingness, the door opens almost of itself. And looking through it, we shall see a pathway beside which is an inscription. And it reads, "This is the way to a faith that works." In the first 2 steps, we were engaged in reflection. We saw that we were powerless over alcohol, but we also perceived that faith of some kind, if only in AA itself, is possible to anyone. These conclusions did not require action. They required only acceptance. The key word in step 3 is decision. There is absolutely no action taken, nor is any type of action necessary for completion of step 3. The actions come in the subsequent steps. If 2 birds are on a power line and one of them decides to fly off, how many are left? You still have 2 birds left on the power line. After making the decision to turn our will, our thoughts, and our lives, our actions, to the care of God, absolutely nothing happens until and unless it is followed by action. Steps 1, 2, and 3 pave the way for the willingness to come to make the decision to turn our will and our lives over, to change our thoughts and actions. Steps 4 through 9 show us how to make the change happen, as well as removing the character defects that prevent us from doing it. Steps 10, 11, and 12 help us keep our will and our lives in His care. Another key word in step 3 is care. You're not turning your will and life over to God. You are turning them over to His care. We have free will to do whatever we want. The longer you are sober, you will find that the things you want to do have changed. The path will get narrower. You will do the right thing in life because you want to. You may not always know what the right thing to do is in a situation, but you will always know what is the wrong thing to do. In the 12 and 12 on pages 34 and 35, it says, like all the remaining steps, step 3 calls for affirmative action. For it is only by action that we can cut away the self-will, which has always blocked the entry of God, or if you like, a higher power, into our lives. Faith, to be sure, is necessary, but faith alone can avail nothing. We can have faith, yet keep God out of our lives. Very true. Therefore, our problem now becomes just how and by what specific means shall we be able to let Him in? Step 3 represents our first attempt to do this. In fact, the effectiveness of the whole AA program will rest upon how well and earnestly we have tried to come to a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. In the big book on page 62, it says, first of all, We have to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. On page 63 in the big book, it says, we were now at step 3. Many of us said to our maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. Many call this the 3rd step prayer. And again, that's in the big book on page 63. Also on that page, it says, we found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, our best friend, spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Don't let the God word stop you from taking the step. Your God or higher power can be whoever or whatever you want. You can customize your God to your specifications. Some AA members say they do steps 1, 2, and 3 every day. Some say they surrender every day. Others say they've only done steps 1, 2, and 3 once, and they are no longer in a state of surrender. Some members say are still powerless overall, even after years of sobriety. Others say they are no longer powerless, that they are in a position of neutrality. Step 3 is about the God of your understanding. Do not get hung up on the God word. God can stand for group of drunks, grow or die, greatest of daddies, or anything you want. You don't even have to use the God word. You can just call it your HP, your higher power. You can have your own conception of God and not that of your parents. You don't need to keep the God you grew up with. You can customize your God just as you would customize a computer to your specifications. AA will help you plug into the power of your God. The room you're in is full of power outlets, but if you don't plug in, you won't get the power. The 3rd step helps you find the power outlet and plug in. The rest of the steps clear the path to the power, as well as staying plugged into the power source. Interdependence. You will get more independence by being dependent on your higher power or your HP. For most people in this meeting, alcohol was their God, their higher power. Alcohol was their crutch in life. Alcohol, however, was a temporary solution. You now have a long-term permanent solution in AA and your higher power. You could lean on them for support and strength. In step 3, you will begin to see how your higher power was looking out over you your whole life. Don't see how your higher power was with you your whole life? Think about the times that you should have died. Think about the times that you should have been arrested. Think about the times something horrible should have happened, but it didn't go as badly as it should have or could have been. That, my friends, was your higher power looking out for you. You will begin to see that everything happens in your life for a reason, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's okay to have faith and fear simultaneously. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is having fear, but going forward anyway. You don't even have to believe in God. Again, your higher power can be anything you want. You can even be an atheist and still get sober and become happy, joyous, and free. The bottom line is that AA works if you believe in God. It works if you don't believe in God. The only way it will not work is if you think you are God. Are you ready to turn your will and your life over to the care of God? Over to the care of the God of your understanding? Yes or no? Call it out, friends. Are you ready to turn your will and your life over to the care of God of your understanding? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you ready to do the right thing in your life from now on, one day at a time? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Positively.
If you answered yes, then let's say the third step prayer together. And I'll give you a minute to find it in the link. It's underneath the third step. It's the last paragraph, right above the highlighted portion. Okay, let's pray. God,
God,
I offer myself to thee
To thee,
to build with
to build
me
build with me,
and to do with me
do with me
as thou
as
wilt.
thou
thou
wilt.
wilt.
Relieve
Relieve
me
Me
of the bondage of
bondage
self,
of self,
that I may
that I
better
may
do thy
better
will.
do thy will.
Take away
Take
my
away my
Take away my
difficulties,
difficulties,
that victory over
over
them
them
may
may
bear
bear
witness
bear
witness
witness
to those
to
I
those
would
I would
I
help
would help
of thy
thy
power,
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 thy
thy
love,
thy
love,
love,
and thy
and thy
way
way
and
of
thy
of
way
life.
of
life.
life.
May I do
May I
thy
do
thy
will
will
always.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
If you answered
Thank you
yes
so
to
much.
the question, then you have just taken step 3
Yeah, that's what's up.
on page
November 20th,
50.
2022. That's right. Don't forget this day. Don't forget this
Okay,
day.
in the big book on page 58, it says if you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. So we are now going to move on to step 4. Thank you for letting me read, everybody. Laura, alcoholic.
Thank you so much, Lord. Are you still willing to go to any length? If so, let's move on. Jump into an alcohol strategy. Step 4.
I
Get a
wanted
search
to
and feelers.
I wanted to say
Questions,
something.
comments? Go.
So it's better to stay in the solution and not get into drunkalogs and get into we want to focus on the steps and the solution and recovery. Getting a DUI does not make you an alcoholic. Getting a DUI does not make you an alcoholic. There are non-alcoholics, many non-alcoholics will get DUIs. They made a mistake one time. Going to jail doesn't make you an alcoholic. What makes you an alcoholic, we read it in step 1, is when you have that first drink, you got to have that second, 5th, and 10th drink. That's what makes you an alcoholic. Not getting a DUI, not going to jail, not getting into fights. There are people who drank more than I did. They weren't alcoholics. I drank from the age of 16 to 21. People drank for 40 years and they're probably not alcoholic, but yeah, so we want to stay on the solution and not worry about drunkalogs. And then it gets into people trying to outdo each other. You know, I've been to jail 10 times. I've been to jail 20 times. I've been to jail 30 times. That's it. But any questions or comments on?
Yeah, I have a comment on what we just read for step 3. The part where it says some members say they are still powerless over alcohol even after years of sobriety. You know, that's important for me. That sentence is important for me because no matter how long I'm sober, I have to remember my powerlessness because I have no control over the way my body metabolizes alcohol. I couldn't control that even if I wanted to. I was designed to metabolize alcohol the way my body metabolizes alcohol, which is an abnormal way. So I will always be powerless over this thing called alcohol. Thank goodness today I don't have that obsession to drink. That's just for today. And then the next thing is when it talks about, you know, and I hear people say it all the time and I cringe when I hear it, you know, I should have died. I should have died. No, no. Because if you should have died, then, you know, would have died. So I just, that word should have, it does something to me because, you know, I could have, I've been in a lot of bad spots, you know, but I should not have died, you know, because I have a purpose today and I'm here, but I could have died, but I should not have, because if I should have, then I wouldn't be here today. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on step 3, there are two things in the reading that have always caught my attention that helped me. And first off, it's when you read you reassured me that this is a path to faith that works, you know? And yeah, that reassured me. And then when and I put it in the chat, and Laura, please co-host me. I put it in the chat from the reading. And when Bill wrote this and he made it so simple, and it says on in the big book on page 62, first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. We decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be, now listen to this, the director. He was going to be the principal. We are his agents, and he is the father. We are his children. Most good things are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. Wow. That lets me know that I can call my higher power whenever I need to. Principal, Father. It doesn't have to be called God, you know. And even in certain religions, they have more than one God. They have a Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I can have as many gods as I choose or I need to have in my life in order to help me to stay sober and to help myself and to help others, you know, whatever it takes. Yeah. But I love that in the reading.
Hi. Hi, Carly Joe.
I wanted to share something that ever since I was introduced to the idea of a higher power, uh, that's been something I've had to work on to surrender my ego. And this step 3 is easy at times for me, and sometimes it's hard. And there's been times my faith was strong and times my faith was not strong. So this is something I work on. I really need to work on and want to work on every day. This is a really powerful step for me to turn my will over. That's not something a guy like me likes to do. But I know that's the better way, so I do it. Because I've learned through experience that when I play God, it don't turn out good. That's all I got. Thanks.
I have something really quick. Because I'm new into the program. I'm a little over 4 months sober. And John, maybe you can help me with this, but it just seems like, yes, it definitely is. It's a mental obsession, and the insanity thinking. But at the same time, even if we could, we learned to lay this down and have the power of God relieve us of this insanity thinking and the obsession. And even when we can control that, even if we thought we could control that, and I know I went through years of trying to moderate and with all the formulas, but like someone just shared earlier, it's also the physical part, because my body for sure does not process alcohol like anyone else that I've ever known. I can black out in 2 drinks, and then that mental obsession, I'm drinking, I can't drink enough. But it's like, even if I have the 2 drinks, even if I have the 3 drinks, it's like my body just it doesn't process it well. So isn't it just, I mean, it's not just the mental obsession, it's a physical part where our bodies don't process it. I mean, I hear a lot about the mental obsession, which drives anyone crazy, and you have to live with it every day and rely on the higher power. But it's just the physical part too, like I don't hear enough about.
Yeah, I would say, what difference does it make?
Yeah. Exactly.
Doesn't make any difference at all. But because there is a physical aspect to it, but it's the mental obsession that's AA takes care of. The mental aspect is taken care of with a higher power. Yeah, the body craves sugar. So when you stop drinking, we don't know how much sugar is in alcohol until we stop drinking. The body craves sugar, and yeah, we science may one day discover that gene that makes us different, but I don't care about that, because then I'm gonna want to try to drink again. So I hope they never find it, this so-called cure or whatever the reason. I don't care why the microwave works. I don't care why the car works. I just want to get in and drive. I just want to eat my food. I don't care how electricity works. When I click on the switch, I just wanted to. Yeah, don't overthink it. Don't
It's just the baffling part, like just any. But it's funny because even though we know for ourselves that we're alcoholics, it's like I'm always just, I don't really care, but it's just like my best friends. I mean, my husband, like they just, oh, you're not, we didn't ever knew you were alcoholic, like it just seems like if you could do this or do that. And it's like, they just don't get it. Like, it's just, I don't know.
and they don't and they don't have to get it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Don't try to, this is life and death. Yeah. We have a solution, and it's a spiritual solution.
Thanks.
Okay, is that it? If so, then we're going to move on. And congratulations to everyone. And thank you all for being here today. Okay, I'm Jonathan, and I'm an alcoholic. So, are you still willing to go to any length? If so, let's move on. Step 4: made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. How soon should we start step 4 after we've done step 3? Let's see what our founding fathers of AA had to say about this topic.